It was good, yeah, it was fun. Although the show was on the street, it still felt quite intimate, and the piano was it was just piano voice, which was nice to play the songs like that. I think it represented like a darkness that was there, and also just like not being able to ever fit in and feeling like an outsider in a way to everybody else, and almost like a celebration of that. There's a song by the Beach Boys called "I Guess I Just Wasn't Made for These Times." This kind of, I think, a similar lyric in a way. It goes to the chorus, and in the chorus it goes, "Sometimes I feel very sad." I love that sort of celebratory of like saying something over and over again, and it's not necessarily it's a celebration of sadness. Okay. I guess like a melancholy. I think that's what the wrong crowd's about. I don't know, it's difficult. It's difficult to like articulate, you know, in a way that... It's funny with songwriting, you don't necessarily ever think about why you write songs. It just comes out of you. And you don't... I know as much as you do in terms of like what it means, but it just meant something to me, I don't know. I think there's so many different influences, and I think this album is influenced by so many different styles of music. It's not one style, it's a lot, and it was very important to me when I made this record that it never did the same thing twice. When I was doing, I recorded a lot of songs, I wrote a lot of songs for it that didn't make the cut, but the track listing was very much determined by not ever repeating an idea, both musically and lyrically, like not having the same sentiment twice, you know. But it follows a narrative, so it takes you on a journey. It takes you on a journey rather than a repetition of an idea, which is also equally as good in some albums. Just repeat the same thing, and with each repetition you find more depth to it. But this is certainly more of a... It takes you somewhere else, and there's certain situations, like by the time, you know, you start off with the wrong crowd, it's like this kind of party feel, and you know, darkness. I don't want to be at this place, I wanted to escape, and then magnetized. I'm searching for someone that just won't have me. So that's again trying to find somewhere to be. And then on Concrete, it's kind of about just wanting just a purity, an innocence, and more natural existence. And then Constellations, track 4, is very much all of a sudden you're just in this sort of bar, and I'm telling someone that everything's going to be different now. You know, we're going to get out of this time, and it's much more open and intimate. Very inspired by like Harry Nilsson and Randy Newman, and like the use of American songwriters like Billy Joel as well, and that kind of... I like that on an album when you've got some ambiguity, but then it goes into this... But then all of a sudden it's a scene, you know, you paint the scene. I really enjoyed writing Constellations. It was like, I really imagined like I was there. I imagined the bar, it's almost like I can hear the chatter, you know, I imagine what was on the wall, what colour the wallpaper was, you know, the frost on the glass. Yeah, I was never... To be honest, I was not that worried about that, because I feel like ultimately, if you've got one singer, you know, writing the songs and singing it, it's always going to feel cohesive in some ways. But I think what holds it together, I hope, I'm not, you know, it's very kind of you to say that, ultimately is where it stands lyrically. is the viewpoint. It's the fact it's all come from the same year, same 18 months when I wrote it. It has the same. The lyrics have the same insecurities throughout each song, and ultimately they're all written very similarly. They're all written on piano.
Okay.
So I think that's probably what holds it together. And, you know, I don't have, you know, over the years you develop a style, don't you? Little annoying idiosyncrasies, which I pull out of the bag far too often. I think it was just I think in order to write, you have to, as far as I'm concerned, in order to write, you have to get rid of all the bullshit that's in your mind and be able to reach a place which is true. And anything I ever write of any worth whatsoever is when I access that place where I stop lying to myself about stuff, you know. And it comes from a genuine place. And that's when the best stuff comes out. So that's, you know, and it's inspired by other artists, certainly. But I think it's the same with any sort of art, and I wouldn't compare myself to any great artist, but I think that, you know, if you look at, you know, I went to see Robert Mapplethorpe's exhibition the other day in LA, and I looked at the photographs, and I've never been particularly into photography. It's not, I like it, but it's never, I don't know that many photographers. And I just, you know, looking at his work, there's just such a truth to it, and an honesty that I can't imagine what it would have been like to have seen that in the sort of 70s for the first time. But that truth, I think, is relevant to all forms of art, and also all forms of just people, you know, that being able to have that thing in their eyes, where you know, that it's that connection, it's being a human. We all sometimes forget that we're humans. There's something very raw and basic about it, ultimately. It was difficult after I finished touring. Okay. Because I spent so much time with people around me, and, you know, with the circus of touring. You know, you're overstimulated, you've talked too much, you've sang too much, you've drank too much, you know. So when I finished that, I found there was a period of sort of adjustment that was required. But then I think there's a sense of normality that was required for me to go back to, that I searched for, and I think for a moment, you know, I felt it again. You have to get shit on by a few birds. Yeah. This analogy I think anyone can say, but you know that you have to be unlucky